This month's podcasts are sponsored by Aubergine Legal. Do you sometimes worry that your business isn't meeting all its legal compliance requirements and wonder if you're ticking all the legal boxes? Are you losing sleep worrying about a piece of legislation that you may or may not be complying with? Perhaps you need some help with your client contracts or your data protection compliance. Or maybe you're worried that your website doesn't have the right documents or legal notices in the right place. Perhaps you have a brand that you want to protect with a trademark. How about if you could outsource it all and eliminate all of your worries? If so, then get in touch with Aubergine Legal, a friendly commercial legal consultancy offering practical and clear commercial legal advice without the overwhelming legal jargon, taking the worry away and helping you to protect your business and minimise your risks. Aubergine offers a free 30-minute consultation if you have any questions or want to find out if they can help, and you can access this link and book your free 30-minute call via the link in the show notes.
Welcome to the Bring Your Product Ideas to Life podcast. Practical advice and inspiration to help you create and sell your own physical products. Here's your host, Vicky Weinberg.
Hello, I hope you've had a really good week. We've got a bit of a different episode for you today. It's coming up to the end of the year and I thought it might be quite nice to do something different. So I know that lots of you have creative and handmade businesses, and today I thought it'd be really nice to talk a bit about the creative process, being creative in general, why it's so good for us, why it's so good for our well-being, and for anyone listening who doesn't consider themselves creative or maybe doesn't have a creative outlet, to give you some suggestions of things you can do that are creative. And of course, some of the creative things we do might lead to having something that you want to sell or turn into a business, but actually for lots of people that just never happens. I talk in this episode about the fact that I crochet. Actually, I'm never going to make a business around that. It's just something I do for fun, but that's great for all of the reasons we're going to talk about today. So today I'd love to introduce Kinga Hofman. So Kinga creates a space and opportunities to discover, enjoy and experience art. She believes that everyone's creative and that art is fundamental to human expression. So she's going to talk to us about her business and what she does, which I found absolutely fascinating, particularly her story around why she started. And then we're going to talk all things creativity. So I really hope, as always, you enjoy this conversation. And I'd love to introduce you to Kinga. So hi Kinga, thank you so much for being here.
Hi Vicky, thank you very much for having me here. And I think I need to introduce myself a little bit. So my name is Kinga, and I run a place called House of Culture. This is the place where you can experience art, when you can come back to art, where you can discover art, when you can do all sorts of different things connected to art and well-being. And this place is based in Brighton. We are 1 year old, and we're looking forward to the more adventures and new people that they're gonna come and experience art with us.
Oh, I didn't realise you were only a year old actually. Wow. So
yes,
you've had quite a tricky first year then, I guess.
Yes, that's actually, it's quite interesting because when I don't remember that, I mean, like somehow my brain shuts down. But whenever people like yourself finds out that we are just 1 year old, they're like, "Wow, you opened during the lockdown," and I'm like, "Yeah, actually, I did. I did open during the lockdown, and somehow it was the right time. I mean, if lockdown and the pandemic wouldn't happen, then probably maybe I wouldn't open at all. So it's it's a silver lining of our situation at this moment that I decided to change my career completely and open something totally different than I used to work with.
Okay, so I am really intrigued now. So do you mind telling us that story about maybe if you want to talk a bit about your previous career and then how you came to open House of Culture?
Long story short is I presume you yourself and other people realize already I'm not native English speaker, so I'm from Poland. And the whole life happened in Poland. But when I was about 10 years old, I've been introduced by my friend to the place that we call in Poland House of Cultures. And basically the place is the place where you can experience many different aspects of art and expression. So you can go to the classes where you've got art, you can go to the classes where you've got cooking, you can go to the language classes. They're not like a class, they're sessions. So it's after school activities. And you can go and have a time with theater. So the whole idea is to try as many things as possible before you kind of release yourself into the grown-up world. And why I'm talking about this when you ask me about my career is because that somehow had the impact on my grown-up life, because I started going there, and I was going first to the pantomime session, then I went to the macrame session, and then I eventually ended up in an art session. Somehow that decided about my life as a grown-up person, because then I decided to study interior architecture in Poland. And then I become an interior architect, which obviously it's very glamorous in a description. Everyone, when I say I'm interior architect, it's something slightly different than designer, but quite similar. And everyone was like, wow, that's absolutely fascinating. You're doing an amazing job. It is a great job, don't get me wrong. But it has a kind of like a boring side to it as well, and kind of dealing with monies and people and other people, subcontractors, building sites. It's not exactly as glamorous as it seems to. Anyway, it's been my job for about 15 years here and in Ireland, because I used to live in Ireland before. And it was good. It was brilliant. You know, it's a creativity at the highest point. You know, you are creative in this job as much as you can be, and you're designing the layouts, you're moving the walls, you decide about extensions, every aspect of this job. It's really, really interesting. But at some point, and I think it's after I become a mom, I realized that, okay, brilliant, but I would like to do something more for others, you know, and more kind of for kids related. I somehow found out that being with kids is really easy for me. And actually, grown up life, being adult, is overrated. I'm really sorry, but it is. I think the most important thing is when we are kids, and I absolutely adore kids, and the way how they look at life, the way how they are constantly curious and asking the questions. And I know sometimes we've got enough of those questions, and sometimes we think like, oh my God, stop asking another why, because, but actually that's the creativity at the highest point as well, because they want to know why, how, and you know, that's kind of gave me an idea about opening the place for the kids where they could experiment, where they could try a new things. Obviously, the reality at this moment is that I've got only art related part, because different reasons, mostly money wise and lockdown as well. But yeah, the other reason about opening the space is that we all know the political situation. I didn't want to kind of moan and rant about it, but you know, kids having less and less creative subjects at schools, that's down to the curriculum. And it's quite ironic for me, because creativity is the most sought after skills in a grown-up world after that. Like, we need to be creative in every aspect of life. If someone says that we're not creative or I'm not creative, they are not aware about their own creativity, basically. So that was the main reason why I opened the space. And at this moment, we've got a small place on the Orange Row. It has an orange door, because orange is my favorite color. And this is the place where kids come after school or during the day if they're home educated, or on Saturdays they can try different techniques of art. They can relax. They can swing on the swings, because we've got a swings and they're quite popular. And they can be together as well, because, you know, we have, you know, the places where we live are different. Some people are having a very small flat. It's impossible to have a couple of kids at the same time. So, you know, there are various aspects of my place. It's not only an art, and it's not a place where I'm going to tell you what to do. It's just a place where you're coming and you can try, and I'm here only to help. So sorry, I kind of I made a whole way around, but yeah, that's why House of Culture is my new career now, and it's absolutely dream job, and I absolutely love it.
Oh, thank you for that. And no, you didn't go round at all. I think I found your story so fascinating, and yet no, I loved hearing that, because I know we'd had a quick talk before, but I purposely didn't go into some of these questions because I wanted to hear them for the first time on the podcast as well as everybody else. But one thing that struck me is I didn't realize just how new it was. So the House of Culture you mentioned in Poland, was that something, because I'm just curious, was that like just one particular place that you went to, or was that part of the culture overall in Poland that children would have access to these activities?
To be honest with you, I think it's a kind of like a thing that came from the communist politics and communist bloc that Poland used to belong to, and I'm sure that they had them in Russia and a part of Soviet republics then there as well. So it's not like, it's a kind of like a one thing. No, it's been pretty much in every small city. Like I came from the quite big town. There's 450,000 people there. So and we had quite few of those in the city. I just went to the one that was closest to my house, to place where I used to live. So I mean, it's a brilliant. It's so simple and it's brilliant. You've got a different activities under one roof, and the kids can come and do and try. I mean, like, it's so simple.
Yeah.
That, because I always think, like, especially now being a grown-up person, like how you can decide what to do in adult life if you haven't tried. I mean, like, of course, we've got an imagination, we've got ideas, like, okay, I would like to be a doctor because my mom is a doctor and I kind of see what she does. Perfect. But what if the imagination doesn't kind of cover the reality? And then, at some point you're going to the university, you're putting all that effort to do all the steps to be a doctor, for example, or lawyer, and then you realize, actually, that's not exactly how I envisage that. So, and especially with creative subjects, I think it's important to check what really is your passion, or what really makes you, not even what really is your passion. No, it's a wrong way around. What makes you happy, basically? Because, as you know, and it's cliche, but in life, we looking for the happiness. So if something makes you happy, that's the most important thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think you're right in that even if it's not something you want to necessarily for a job or career, I think making you happy is really important, because I think, like, over the last couple of years with the lockdowns and spending more time at home, I know there was a link between people trying more art and creative things. Like, I started doing cross stitch, for example, because I was looking something creative, and years before I taught myself how to crochet. But it's actually, I think, a bit harder to pick some of these things up as an adult, if you see what I mean. I found it so hard to teach myself to crochet. It was such a tricky process, because it was something I'd never done as a child. And I did lots of things as a child. I was very lucky, but I don't feel like I did many of these creative things, perhaps. So I can definitely see the benefits of doing it as a child, because sometimes as an adult it can be a bit daunting to pick up and try and do something new.
I think that actually it's in our head, because to be honest with you, for me, crochet and cross stitches is a black magic. I tried to do some crocheting, and it was when I was a kid, and then, as you said, I did exactly the same when lockdown happened. I said, like, okay, what we can do at home, I don't need to have a lot of supplies, okay, crochet. And don't get me wrong, I can do a basic stuff, but it's difficult. And I think the biggest problem in our lives at this moment is that we tend to live so fast. Like, I tend to call our time of our lives, it's a kind of like a fast Amazon Prime times, basically. We believe, and social media are not helping with that as well, that things are happening immediately by the press of the button. And what's even more interesting, that the kids are getting the same ideas already. That, you're watching a movie on a YouTube, how to do the painting, and the lady is doing a painting in 30 seconds. Like, excuse me, but it's not happening this way. And coming back to your crochet thing as well, I know it sounds difficult, and I know but the more you're doing it, the better you are. And it's again simple as that. I keep explaining this to kids. Look, you need to put their efforts to everything what you're doing and what's important to you. That's one thing. Second thing is that it takes time, and you need to accept that it takes time. You didn't walk when you were a child. You had to learn how to walk, and you were landing so many times on your bum. We just don't remember this, because if we would remember that, we wouldn't make enough effort to kind of start and go back again and go back again. So that's what really fascinates me at this moment as well, is because I've got a son who is 8 years old, and I kind of go through the school system. Sorry, there was a phone, unfortunately. I go through the school system with him as well. And what really fascinates me is the failure problem as well. Kids are being taught that failure is something horrible, while it's not. Failure is a natural process of learning. And the way that we make the mistakes, this is how we learn, basically. Simply as that. And again, going back to your crochet, it's difficult in the beginning, but I'm sure it's, again, as I said, the time and time doing this times and times again, and I'm sure you are at master level now.
Yeah, you're right. Now that after I got over that initial hurdle, I definitely got very good. I think you're right. I think there's one of the things you're talking about, life moving fast, is that as an adult, it's giving yourself the time to try something new, because you feel like either you should be doing something else, or something more productive. I'm productive in air quotes. There's something more productive you could be doing than spending half an hour with some yarn and a needle. You have that thought as well. It's interesting what you said about failure, because my son is also 8, and also can sometimes have this mindset that, oh, if I can't do it immediately, then I can't do it. Then it's not worth doing. It's too hard. And I think a growth mindset is definitely something that if we can get our kids into that way of thinking, it will definitely help us so much as adults. Because I think there is that thing as well of like taking time to do something for yourself. If you can't crochet or cross stitch or whatever, then maybe you think, oh well, I just leave it because I don't really have the time to learn that, or maybe I'm too old to learn that, or whatever the thing is. I think it's so easy to talk yourself out of trying some of these things.
Again, you actually made a really important point. The other thing that really stops us in blogs is the belief that because we finish schools or universities, we know everything already, so we should be good immediately at something. We, like cross stitching. Well, this, it should be easy. I'm okay. And as soon as it's not easy, our brains tells us like, okay, do you really want to do this? And it's again, I believe it's quite natural, but because we are being spoiled, but as I say, Amazon Prime, when you press the button and you get the thing next day morning, or by the, watching all of the things on the social media where the things have speed up, and then obviously looks like, something like 5 minutes craft. I think it's one thing on Facebook or on Instagram, when the things are happening immediately, like concrete is drying out within the split of the second. It's not happening. I'm really sorry. It's not happening. So I think that's what makes that illusion that if it's not happening immediately, it's not worth it of trying, or if it's not happening well immediately, then I'm not good at it. And again, that phrase from kids of school age breaks my heart, because whenever I'm trying to introduce something, I'm trying to say, look, maybe you're going to try this, and there's this phrase, I'm not good at it. And I'm like, what does it mean? Have you tried long enough to be good at it? Or, have you tried at all? Because some kids, they're not even trying because they're not good at it. And I'm like, really?
Yeah, is really sad, isn't it? So I wanted to have you on for this episode because I wanted to talk a bit about creativity and being creative, as I know lots of listeners have creative businesses, and I also think there are those who might like to have a creative business, or equally, there'll be lots of people listening who have some sort of hobby that they want to do that never ever will be a business, but it's just for fun. Like with me and my crochet, I'm never ever going to sell any of it, but it's fun to do. But I did want to talk to you about creativity because I think for a lot of the reasons you've outlined, it's like really important. So can you tell us some of the benefits of taking time to be creative and create things and just just play a little bit, for want of a better word?
I mean, I think that the benefits are well known, but we tend to forget about it. First,
Yeah.
as you said, with what we experienced with lockdown is that we had so much time on our hands. Yeah, some people that they were on furlough scheme, they didn't have to work, or they were sitting at home. We all been sitting at home, and we had so much time. Saying simply, creativity, first of all, allows you to make the space. You make the space for yourself. Obviously, that connects to the well-being as well. You allow yourself to have a space, to have a thought about something, to start doing something, which is an amazing process for our brain, because as soon as you become creative, our brain starts functioning slightly different. That has a connection with this magical flow. So basically, when you are being creative, when something really pulls you out, and you become in this zone when nothing really matters. I'm in a zone. It doesn't matter if it's coloring, if it's writing, if it's painting, if it's drawing, if it's cross stitching, if it's any aspect of creativity. Your brain starts functioning slightly different. So kind of allows you to be in that flow moment, and your prefrontal cortex gives you a space, basically calms down a little bit. And it's better as well to come up with the really important thoughts in your brain, because everything else is kind of quiet down. Your thoughts, your original thoughts, are kind of more prone to be built up. Does it make sense a little bit?
Yeah, no, that does make sense, because I find that doing something, well, for me, if I'm doing something creative, you almost, because you have to concentrate on your stitches or your colors or whatever it is, some of those other thoughts, those nagging thoughts, just disappear, or at least recede a bit, because you don't have the space to think about your worries or whatever else.
Yeah, and what really connects to this one is that when you see the effect of your creative time, there is this huge release of the neurohormones coming up. So all the magic words like serotonin, dopamine, endorphins, you're getting a really huge boost out of the creativity. There is, as I said before, benefits of being creative. You can keep telling the stories about them, because there's so many of them. Like, you improve your social skills and social life, because if you're creative with the others, obviously that's kind of self-explanatory. You making a connection. If you're showing off your creativity, again, you're making a connection. If you're creative, that improves your mind, moods, it improves your brain functioning, alleviates the stress and anxiety. It's so many of those. There are even some questions, some research that creativity boosts immune system. I don't know how I didn't find the right research, but I've seen in a few articles about creativity that actually the more creative you are, somehow it has an impact on your immune system, which is like crazy how, but it is. I presume it might be down to the brain functioning and kind of calm down moment and stress relief, basically, because we know that if you are very stressed, it's really easy to get sick and ill. So it's really beneficial for our lives, basically, to be creative. And actually, there is a big myth about creativity as well. I mean, like, I believe that every one of us is creative. I mean, if someone says, "Oh, I'm not creative at all," as I mentioned that before, it's simply he's not aware of his potentials and skills. Because even if you have to make a meal for your kids after school, you need to think, "Oh, what I need to cook." That's creativity. Or you're looking into your fridge and you've got some produce in your fridge and you're coming up with some dish. That's creativity in a very basic way, but it is creativity. If you're coming to the problem solving the problem, again, creativity in the simplest form. So it's it's creativity is everywhere, and every one of us is creative.
That's a really good point, actually, that I have heard people say that before. Oh, I'm not very creative. Do you have any, I don't know, any tips for how people can perhaps, I don't want to say become more creative, because like you say, I also believe that everyone's got it inside them, but I don't know, any advice for people who think they're not creative, but quite like the idea of, of, of
being creative.
Like, I'm trying to think how to word it. Like the idea of being creative, perhaps don't consider themselves creative now. Do you have any things people could try?
I mean, first of all, I'm not the best person to give advices. I don't like giving advices because I don't like, well, it's difficult to give advices. But as I said, everyone is creative, and I think the best tips how to kind of rediscover the creativity is to do the small steps. So finding your time, basically. If you are busy mom or busy dad or busy career or busy, I don't know, busy person, find yourself a time, 15 minutes per day, where you can do some stuff. Yeah, you can try as many things as possible. I mean, like, there is no limit, basically, and nobody has a right to judge you as well. So, you can try this at home. You can try to write. You can try to draw scribbles, crocheting, or you can go and join. There is so many activities out there. You can do the pottery, you can do drama, you can do, there is a creative writing sessions, there are drawing sessions, there's like X amount of activities that you could go and try. Don't take yourself too seriously as well, I would say, because you need to be open-minded. You need to be ready to play a little bit, to have fun. So, kind of maybe change a little bit of attitude if you really are a serious person. I mean, it's nothing wrong to be serious, of course, but trying to kind of open mind a little bit more. I think that being curious as well, it's a good thing, because we do forget how it is to be curious, and I think it's a really important thing to keep asking the question why, where, how, because all those questions directly run to the answers or not, but they kind of allow you to search for it, and then it's another creative process. So keep asking the questions. We're never too old to learn. We're supposed to learn all our life, because if the moment when we stop learning, our brains start dying slowly, but they do. Keep showing your work. Again, it doesn't matter if it's good or if it's bad, or if someone says it's bad. It doesn't matter, it's yours. It makes you happy, and nobody has a right to tell you what's good, what's not. Yeah, so keep showing this. I know journaling is a really good way as well. Again, it doesn't need to be shown, as you said, it doesn't need to be a business plan, but if something makes you happy, keep doing it.
Thank you. And I know you said you don't like to give advice, which I completely get, but I think we can take these all as suggestions rather than advice. There's another thing that I was just thinking as you were talking, is a suggestion that I have is for those of you listening with children, is to kind of maybe joining some of your children's activities. So, for example, since having children, I've discovered that I quite like colouring because they like colouring. I've discovered I quite like building things with Lego. And these were things that I would have done as a kid, but I think if I hadn't had my own children and hadn't sat down at the table and joined in with their activities, I probably wouldn't have realised I enjoyed as an adult. And don't get me wrong, I don't enjoy all of the things that they want to do, but it's quite nice when they get a craft set or something to sit down and go, okay, so what's this about, and let's join in. And I think that's quite a nice way of finding things that you enjoy, is just to think a bit like a child a little bit, and don't worry if you get it wrong or it looks messy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't be so serious. Just be yourself and find what makes you happy. I mean, like, if you don't hurt any other being, the sky is the limit, basically. You can be creative in so many ways. Go and do it. I know it's not easy sometimes, but there are always ways. And and even small things are important, and has a huge impact on our mental health, and that's another thing which is really important at this moment, because we're coming out of the pandemic moment. We don't know what's going to happen, so especially during, you know, our kids and in our lives, grown-ups, doesn't matter if you're a child or not, mental health has been impacted by the lockdowns and by corona. So it's really important to find something that makes you simply happy. If it's baking, if it's, I don't know, gardening, that's like, you know, so many ways you can be creative in.
Yeah, I mean, did you want to talk at all about the link between creativity and well-being? Because I've heard, obviously, I've heard that it is good to do creative things. I've heard it can improve your mood and your well-being. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
Nothing more. I presume I would repeat myself, but as I said, I found that really fascinating, that actually when we are creative in any way, that our brain changes, and kind of, you know, it's been researched, it's been proved that basically the brain waves going slow, and you know, it's a different state. We can actually allow our brain to calm down a little bit. And again, as I said, we live in really fast times. I think the moment for our brains to slow down, it's extremely important. And you know, that's the biggest well-being link out of creativity. I think it's important to give yourself time. We know how we all busy are, and it's extremely important to allow ourselves a bit of time for ourselves. I'm really sorry. Sometimes
That's
English
okay.
language, it's a difficult language for me.
Oh, don't worry, till nothing to apologise for, I promise. Thank you. Just a few final questions before we finish up. Firstly,
Yeah.
because I cannot resist asking you this, Kinga, what creative activities do you do personally? I'm just interested.
That it's a lot. I mean, I'm trying
That's
to
okay.
find
Give
a
us
lot
the
of
list.
give us the list. Well, because I work as in my dream work, and that place, I'm basically allowed to be creative every time of every moment at work. So we do a lot of art stuff. I think my favorite thing at this moment is to checking out all of those craves from the internet. So basically, I do spend a lot of time on the internet. So I do research stuff like, new masks or different ones, and then I kind of bring this back to my kids, and we try them together and see how easy it is to do, how, you know, what else we can do out of it if it's working. So all the new stuff, all the new techniques, like, you know, big thing for me was discovering the marbling, because marbling is absolutely relaxing, and it gives you so much of pleasure and so much of great effects as well. And I found that on the internet. So kind of checking out the stuff that you can see on the internet, it's a kind of like my creative wow moment, and showing this to the kids, it's brilliant. I do a little bit of crochet. We created our garden when it was lockdown, out of nothing, basically, because we've got a kind of like a concrete yard on the back of the building where I live. What else I do? I'm not really a huge fan of baking. I would love to know how to bake, but maybe one day I will learn more baking. Yeah, and that's pretty it at this moment. But
No, I mean, that's
somehow
definitely enough.
somehow feels like it's a lot, because the place where I work. So, you know, I mean, like, I do birthday party, and I've got a one birthday party planned on Thursday, and the theme of the birthday party is dinosaurs. So at this moment, my head is literally filled out with the ideas of dinosaurs, what we can do, how much time we're gonna spend on it. So again, even if you are party planner, you are creative, yeah, of course. Even if you are doctor, you are creative. I'm just trying to show, even if you are, you know, I don't know, person who works in a funeral company, you can be creative to make, you know, memorable last memories. Yeah, so it's all different areas of our life you can and you are creative in it. So I think the impact on creativity is enormous, and we need to keep being creative. We need to kind of take care about it and enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you. I think enjoying it is definitely one of the key things I want to take away from this. And thank you so much for everything you've shared. I really hope that this is going to inspire people to try something creative, whether it's something new or something they enjoyed as a child, or just something they think, oh, that looks like fun, and just to do it for fun. And like I said earlier, whether it becomes anything or whether it's just, like something you do to relax and have some time to yourself, I think there's definitely lots of benefits. So thank you for coming on and talking about this, because I think it is a really interesting subject. And while I've spoken to lots of creative business owners, we haven't actually talked that much about creativity, and it is something that I'm fascinated by. So thank you for coming and spending the time with me today.
Thank you very much for having me. And if anyone wants to join me at House of Culture, we've got some sessions for adults as well. So I'm sure you're going to have links to our Facebook and Instagram, and all the information can be found there.
I definitely am. And I'm really excited to hear you've got sessions for adults, because that was going to be my final question, because I could see you have lots of children. So that's great. Also, if and when I can ever make it down to Brighton, I would love to come to a session.
Please do. It's on Mondays and Wednesdays, 7 till 9 p.m., of course, and you are allowed to bring your own beverages. So if someone likes to create with a glass of wine, bring it on. I'm more than happy. There are all materials down there, so you don't need to bring anything. You just need to bring yourself and try or create your favorite techniques, or use your favorite materials. So it's a brilliant opportunity to talk to the others as well. So I think it's a kind of like a nice social place as well to be. And you can even swing on the swings if you want, because they are for kids and for adults. So if someone likes to go back to the memories from childhood, you are more than welcome.
Oh, it sounds brilliant. I will definitely come and visit. It sounds amazing. So thank you so much. And yes, I will link to your website, your social media, and everything else in the show notes so people can come and take a look. And thank you so much again for your time today.
Thank you very much, Vicky. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end of this episode. If you enjoyed it, please do leave me a review. That really helps other people to find this podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes, and do tell your friends about it too if you think that they also might enjoy it. You can find me at vickyweinberg.com. There you'll find link to all of my social channels. You'll find lots more information, all of the past podcast episodes, and lots of free resources too. So again, that's vickyweinberg.com. Take care, have a good week, and see you next time. If you've been inspired to start a podcast in 2024, I really recommend my podcast host, Captivate. Captivate were my top pick when I started podcasting 4 years ago, because of how easy it was for a complete novice like me to get started. I've stuck with them for the last 4 years because Captivate is still really simple to use. They keep adding great new features, like the ability to share ads like these, and they've just been really reliable. So when you're ready to start your own podcast, you can use the link in the show notes and get a free 7-day trial with Captivate.